Welcome. I'm Brad Miller, and I'm here with Jason Medford. And today we're going to talk about intention. That's
In
intention with an I as opposed to attention with an A.
ooh,
I
two
know.
very, very close words. I think it's what's the older I've gotten, it's interesting to me to see some of the epistemology, I think is what it's called, right behind where certain words come from and how close certain words are to the same spelling, but how different, but yet how similar they can be. And in intention and attention are a couple of those words. So, but today we're going to talk about intention with an I.
Yes.
So
My
today's
intention.
today's
Our
episode is
intention.
brought to you by the letter I.
Our intention today is to talk about the word intention and the concept of intention.
Well, it is, and
Multi-two step
so
sentence.
I think, but before we got going, Brad, you kind of brought up kind of two different aspects of intention. So maybe we tee that up for people, and then we can kind of go down each of those paths in talking about intention.
Okay, yeah. So there's I see kind of two sides of this. First of all, is the idea of using your intention. So it is kind of the thinking behind what you're trying to accomplish. So an example would be that you are going to jump in the shower. I think Jason used this one a little bit ago. I'm
Mhm.
going to keep this PG for all those listening, probably.
We're
Um,
getting naked on the
but
podcast.
I need to put like yeah, rated
Disclaimer,
R.
disclaimer, disclaimer.
But yeah, so you could get in the shower and you could just get in there with your intention is to just get clean. Maybe you just worked out and stuff, and so you just need to kind of get your body clean, get the sweat off, so you don't stink, whatever. So that could be your intention of taking a shower. Or your intention of taking a shower could be something different. You could be looking as to see that as a way to ground yourself. The water as an element, you could be using that to kind of cleanse emotionally, cleanse yourself energetically, and allow some of the negative stuff that maybe you've been around to kind of get away. It has nothing to do maybe with getting the dirt off of your skin. It's something deeper. It's something else. But you can go in with the intention of what's the purpose of doing that. You reach out to a friend. What's the intention of reaching out? Is it you just want to check in and say, hey, how's it going? Or are you reaching out because you're going to ask to borrow money? Like two separate, completely different intentions about why you're going to do that act, going to talk to your friend. So that's the one side. And the other side is the idea of being intentional with what you do. And this is actually a concept that I talk to my daughter a lot about, because she tends to just kind of go through life kind of like this, and kind of reactionary and running around like a chicken with her head cut off sometimes, versus being intentional and actually being purposefully doing something, actually putting your mind to it. Hey, don't just run around, think about this before you do it. So with that, I want to jump in and talk about intent and intention.
Yeah, because I think it's important. I mean, I've taught a lot about ethics over the years, right? And one of the things that's comes back, and it's really with any action that we take, the action and the outcome of the action are not really that important. What's most important is what our intention was behind doing the action, which is kind of what you talked about before, right?
Mhm.
And so again, a lot of people would, and this is going to shake some people up when I say this, and some of you are going to go, that's wrong, Jason. But I'm just going to tell you, and again, this is from my experience. Believe me, don't believe me, right? But I promise you, the older you get, the more you'll maybe see things this way. Maybe not. That's fine too, right? But a lot of people would say, oh, it is wrong to lie. Thou shalt not lie, right? One of the 10 commandments, right?
Yep.
And for the most part, I don't lie, right? I'm honest. I tell the truth. That's just who I am. right? But sometimes I do lie. Now, what's my intention behind lying, right? So if you ask me a question, Brad, and I just bold out told you a lie, what's my intention? Is my intention maybe to protect your feelings, to make sure that you're not hurt, to make sure that I don't shake your world in such a way that what I would tell you would be harmful to you, right? Because again, sometimes people are not ready to hear the truth.
Can't
Sometimes
handle the truth.
you can't handle the truth, man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth. And so sometimes when they will ask you a question, they want you to lie to them because they don't want to hear the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So is that my intention for lying? If I have a good intention for lying, there's nothing wrong with lying. If my intention is to lie to Brad, to take money from him, to manipulate him, to make him do something I want him to do, then lying would be not a good thing to do, right? Because my intention behind the lying is to manipulate or take money or do something like that, which is not a pure intention.
In the law, we may say that that's fraud. It's fraudulent.
It's
Which is
fraudulent at
different.
that point, right? Because you're
Yeah.
intending to deceive, right?
Mm-hmm. To the harm of someone else to gain benefit yourself. And
yeah, which I think actually, I mean, because I've done a lot with fraud investigations over time. I think that's actually in the legal definition of fraud as well, is it? Intent to deceive.
there's a lot with law, and my criminal law days are behind me by like 10 years now. But there in the law, there, especially in criminal law, there's a distinction between there's certain crimes that require intent. You have to actually intend to do something, and if you don't intend, it's something different. So murder, let's say, is a great example. If you intend to kill somebody, that's murder. But if you go and you're doing something and it's an accident, you don't intend to do it, an accident, it's still a bad thing, I guess, to kill somebody, probably. I guess you get whatever, but it's not necessarily to the level of murder. We may call it homicide or unintentional homicide or manslaughter or something like that. That's not the same thing as murder, right? And there are even some crimes that actually intent doesn't matter. Speed, for instance. If you go faster than the speed limit, the cop's going to pull you over, and for the most part, he or she don't care why you're speeding. You went faster than the speed limit, you're going to get a ticket, right? That's kind of a strict offense sort of deal where the intent doesn't really matter. But by and large, intention is really important.
Yeah, well, and I think, what you talked about there, the action of killing someone, right? Again, if you go back to the 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, right? It says don't kill in the commandments, right? And again, for the most part, we should not take another person's life, right? But sometimes accidents happen. And like you said, the law takes into account intention, first degree, second degree murder versus manslaughter versus negligent homicide, or negligent homicide, I think, is one of the categories. And each of those has a different consequence associated with it too, because the law recognizes and punishes according to intent. But on the flip side, right, we give young men and women medals when we put a gun in their hand and send them off to war to go kill other people, right? But again, the intention is different, right? And so again, the act of whatever it is that you're doing, the intention behind it is what is so important. And so, again, why are we saying that? Because again, especially when it comes to your spiritual path, are you just going through the motions? Are you just doing certain things to do them without having an intention behind it?
Because you can cool, or
it sounds
says,
cool,
hey, this is
or
if you're spiritual, this is what you should be doing.
Yeah, or you want to brag to somebody else. I mean, again, sharing is not a bad thing, but just start paying attention to people that you associate with. There's some people who choose to share things because they want to be heard. They want to be seen as someone who is great, as someone who is more advanced than other people, right? What's your intention behind what you're doing makes a big difference, right? Sharing with other people for the intention of helping is different than sharing with the intention of trying to get praise from other people, right? So again, even with this podcast, right? Brad and I are just here sharing our experiences. We don't want any of you, right, to think we're any better than anybody else, because I am not. We are the same. Everyone is the same. We are only here sharing our experiences with the intention that us sharing our experiences will help you in your path, right? We're not doing anything to try to get money from you. We're not, we don't want you to go, oh, Brad, Jason, you're so amazing. I don't want that either, right? It's like, if you found it helpful, yeah, tell us. I mean, that's nice to hear that, but we're not doing it with an intention other than just to share and provide information that you can don't do with, whatever you want.
Yep. No, that's, yeah. And it's the difference between it's, again, I a lot of times I go back to my daughter, because a lot of these lessons are things that I deal with her. And so it's great reminder a lot of times when I'm dealing with her about these things, how it applies to myself as well. So like lying is a great example. You shouldn't lie. We tell kids, hey, don't lie to me, be truthful, be honest, because it's easier for the little kid to say black and white, lie, don't lie. When you start getting in intent, you start getting into the gray areas. And, as lawyers, that's where we live, in the gray areas. And there's other professionals as well that kind of live in those gray areas. But for little kids, they can't really navigate those gray areas very well. Like, they need to have that black and white, like, you don't lie. End of story. We just don't lie. We tell the truth. We're honest with everybody. They don't understand the intent, some of the consequences of their actions. So they may not understand that if they say they lie to someone, or they tell the truth to somebody, it could have a negative consequence. That's hard for them to understand some of those things. So, but it's just a great reminder, though, that life isn't black and white like that. Like, that's when we teach the kids, or tell my daughter, but there's a lot of nuance when it comes to that. Again, that's just in life. That's just, law or whatever like that. But again, to the spiritual path, I think it also, why are you doing the things you're doing? Like I talked about the example of the water earlier. Are you getting in the shower just because you're taking a shower? Or are you doing it because you're trying to clear yourself spiritually? Are you doing that because you have been told by someone, or you read it online, that, hey, if you're a spiritual person, you take a shower and you cleanse off all these emotions? Is that the intention of you doing it? Or are you following this stuff? Are you doing these things because it's what feels right to you? It's what you're kind of drawn to. That's how we choose our topics for these podcast episodes, is kind of what feels right to us at the time. What do we feel it's something that maybe needs to be brought out to help other people. It's not just because, hey, I had this really cool story come up, and so that's what we wanted to talk about today. There's something there that, the intention is to share, not to brag, not to, like Jason said, not to make us feel or make you think that we're any better or anything than other people. It's all to help. And so that it's really important for that. It's really important for how to deal with people, and it impacts the result, I think, of what you do. These practices that you do, of what the intention is behind them.
Well, I think if you think about too, because maybe this is kind of a little, somewhat of a practice that people could start doing, something that I am doing a better job at, but I don't do this all the time either. But when I do it, I feel different. And I think in one of the episodes before, when we were talking about spirituality, I used the word connection a little bit. And so maybe this will help kind of explain some of that too, is, when you look around, you're doing things all day, right? You're doing different things all day. But what is your intention behind doing it, right? So let's take something, a task that most people don't like, washing dishes, right? Okay. Most people, bemoan having to wash dishes. Now, I would prefer myself, I prefer washing dishes to cooking, right? I would prefer to wash the dishes than to cook. Other people would prefer to cook. So it's great if I'm with somebody who wants to cook and I clean up, right? Hey, great, right?
Come on over, Jason. You can do the
Come on
dishes here.
over. Come on over. I'll do your dishes, Brad. There we go. Well, when I come visit you, I'll wash your dishes for you. How about that?
There we go.
Now, again, right? We can look at, well, how are you approaching that doing activity of washing the dishes? Now, I'm serious. If I was at Brad's house and he cooks dinner for me, I'm going to wash his dishes, right? He or his wife might say, no, Jason, you're my guest. You just go sit down. But I would want to wash those dishes. Why? Because Brad did something for me. I want to do something for Brad, right? And it's something that I can do. It's a form of me showing my love and gratitude to Brad and his wife for having me there for dinner, right? Instead of, oh my God, I got to do the dishes, right? No, my intention would be doing that to serve and show love and gratitude to Brad and his wife. Now that's a totally different thing. And you can understand and you can start to see now, right, that depending on the intention and kind of the attitude that you have about even doing menial tasks like washing the dishes can be totally different. Now, maybe you cooked your own dinner and you're doing your own dishes. You live by yourself, so you do both, right? Let's say. Well, when you're washing your dishes or when you're cooking your food, right? Again, you can just mindlessly go through and do those tasks, or you can practice and do something a little bit different, right? Like as you're cutting up the potatoes, you can be thanking the potatoes, right? Because again, it's energy, it's part of the universe. I'm grateful to have food, right? That's why a lot of people bless their food or say a prayer when they eat, right? Say some sort of gratitude. You can do that when you're making dinner, right? You can also think about all the people who helped bring that potato to be, right? Somebody had to plant it, somebody had to weed it, somebody had to harvest it, somebody had to put it in a truck and take it to your local grocery store. Somebody had to work at the grocery store so you could go buy it, right? Think of all those people and all the things in that line that you could be grateful for, that you could feel grateful for as you're making your dinner or as you're washing your dishes, right? And that's just in the 3D space, right? But what if we could also be grateful and think about, my goodness, that potato would not grow if it weren't for Mother Earth, for the dirt, for the seeds, for the rain and the water and the sun, right? And you can start to all of a sudden see this huge, beautiful circle of life that surrounds it. And you're doing that by washing the dishes or by cooking your dinner. You don't have to go to church to do that, folks, right? Because you can do that and think about other ways or other places in your life where you could start to have an intention and to express gratitude or use it as a way to show and feel gratitude, even for some of the most menial tasks that you could do during the day.
Like washing dishes,
Like washing
picking
dishes,
up clothes.
picking up clothes. cleaning your house, scrubbing the floor, answering emails. Right? I mean, again, you can, there's so many different ways to do it, right? So what's the intention behind whatever the activity is that you're engaged in?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, I think most of the time we go through much of life in a blur. We just get in the autopilot. We flip on the autopilot, boop, and we just kind of let it happen. And we don't think about why we're doing the things we do. You talked about the potatoes. We don't think about all that goes into getting those potatoes to our house. We just see it as it's a potato. All right, gotta get it cooked up or whatever for dinner. But we don't think about, like you said, all the people that get it that it requires to get it to us. We don't think about the sun and the rain and the earth and everything else that goes into growing the potato, and where does that all come from? And we don't think about those things, and that to me is a big part of the spiritual path, is starting to bring some of these things to our awareness, to my awareness, to think about and to be grateful for the things that I do have. And then to, when I take some of these actions, not do it just because it's just kind of this habit that I do without really, that I do subconsciously, just kind of go through it, but really think about why I'm doing the things. Why am I writing this email? What's the purpose behind it? Am I just doing it because somebody pops up, I click it and, I respond, or am I trying to do this for a specific reason?
Well, and I think even if we, because again, a lot of people who are listening might be professionals or in business, right? So let's even transfer this over into that space. And I'm going to share, there's a great old movie called The Man Who Knew Too Much. And it's an old Jimmy Stewart movie from the 50s or early 60s. It's a great movie. And then there's kind of a spinoff. Bill Murray did one called The Man Who Knew Too Little. That's also a great movie, by the way.
For a different reason.
For a different reason. But anyway, so the Jimmy Stewart movie is, I remember he was a doctor. Okay, his profession was, he was a doctor. And I think his wife and him were on vacation in Europe somewhere. And they started talking about some of his clients or something like that. And he looks down at his suit and he goes, yeah, this suit, Mrs. So-and-so's work paid for this suit. Right. The procedure that he did or whatever for her, right? The money that he received from her for doing his work as a doctor was the cost of his suit. Right. And so he kind of, it was a little bit flippant, but you kind of got the idea, though, that he understood, again, Mrs. Whatever is giving me money so I can buy a suit, and I have this suit that I can wear now. So I'm grateful for Mrs. So-and-so. Right. So think about all the people that you're serving, or that are your customers, your clients, whatever it is, your way of making money. Right. And I know some clients are a real pain in the ass. I get it. I've dealt with a lot of them like that. Okay. Now, you can take, one of two paths. One is, gosh, that Brad is a real pain in the ass. He's just making me blah, 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 blah,
True
blah,
story,
blah. I
yeah,
really have to
very
work
much.
for my money, blah, 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 blah. Right. Now, whoever that person is, if they're being a real pain in the ass, guess what? You got an opportunity to learn how to manage your energy and manage your emotions. That petty tyrant, that person who is a real pain in the butt, is giving you an opportunity to grow. So can you be grateful for the opportunity to grow? Can you see your clients and in the help that you're giving them, right? And that your intention behind whatever you do professionally your intention to serve or to give or to help in the greater of society, right? Hey, maybe you're a divorce attorney, right? Now, divorce ain't that fun. Trust me, right? I know from personal experience, right? It's not that fun.
Unless you're the
But
lawyer, and then it might be.
unless you're the lawyer. Well, but again, you can think about, right? And I've known enough attorneys too. There's attorneys who do it for the money.
Yep.
There's attorneys who do it to serve. They make money,
Sure.
but they do it to serve. There's a difference, right? In their intention and in the way they show up, right? Are you the kind of person that is just looking at the other person as a way of making money? Or are you seeing them as a human, as a cosmic being, as another, spiritual being, and how you treat them, what you do, the service that you give them, right? Again, even if it's a divorce attorney, people need help with divorce, right?
Mhm.
And so you're providing a valuable service, especially if you can do it in such a way, right, to maybe keep the two parties so that they're more amicable, right, in other ways, right? And again, this even gets back to your intention for why you're doing stuff professionally as well.
Sure. Yeah, no, I actually know of divorce attorneys who do the work because they love the drama. They're like, it's a soap opera. Every day I go to school, like I don't need to turn on the tube and watch, the soaps on, whatever. I could just
Real Housewives of
clients.
whatever
Right.
show, right?
It's, real clients of my divorce practice or whatever. Like they just see it every day. And so that's kind of what they do. But um one thing that you mentioned, you words that you used, you talked about the concept of petty tyrant. What is that for those who may not be familiar with that?
A petty tyrant. So think about, if you've ever watched the show Seinfeld, right? And there's Newman and Seinfeld, right? Your arch enemy, the person who's your nemesis, who is always kind of under your skin, always poking at you, always saying things in maybe a passive aggressive way. They're people who trigger you, right? Now, some of those people, again, I'm one to say, look, if you can cut people out of your life that just don't need to be there, do that. Set the boundary, allow people to leave your orbit, right? But there's some people in our lives, a partner, children, parents. And again, not saying that you can't cut them out, but a lot of times, for whatever reasons, we choose not to. But when those people are poking or triggering you, it's an opportunity for your growth, if you will see it that way, right? If somebody throws anger your way, can you not be angry back? Can you take that anger, transmute it, and love the other person more? It's hard to do, but that's part of the spiritual path too.
Yeah. No, and petty tyrants, if you have a petty tyrant, like you said, oftentimes it's like a family member or someone like that. It's a blessing because it is an opportunity for you to learn these lessons: patience, kindness, compassion, these things it allows you to see yourself. I mean, that's a whole episode all to itself, I think, about seeing yourself and others.
Well, yeah, because an interesting thing is a lot of times the petty tyrants are just mirroring what you're giving, which is interesting. Because again, pay attention to what you're receiving or what's getting sent your way, because chances are a lot of times you're giving it out, and that's why you're getting it back too.
Well, and it going into your perception of how you're perceiving things, it could be that the reason why you think that you're allowing them to trigger you, why you're feeling these things, is because of the way that you're seeing the world, your perception of their actions, of what they're saying, even though their intention, like that, put that back, may be
But
something completely different. Yeah.
Well, and
Um,
I think that is an important part that we didn't actually touch on that we should as well, right? Is to maybe give people the benefit of the doubt or assume maybe that their intentions are much purer than we give people credit for. Because a lot of times we tend to take offense or to think someone meant it in a different way that they have no clue about. It was not their intention at all, right?
mhm.
And so again, sometimes that's the work that we have to do on ourselves as well.
Yeah, yeah, because remember, your world is what the world that you see is actually what's actually out there. And it's gone through filters before it comes to you. And so your brain is going through these filters based on your experiences, your past, the emotional traumas, all these other things. And it's creating this image in your head, and you're putting meaning to that based on these filters that you have in your head. But everyone has different set of filters, and everyone's coming this different way. So what you see as mean and vindictive and angry, someone may see as just kind of a neutral, just a comment I was making. I really didn't mean anything, mean anything by it. Um, but that's a huge lesson and a huge thing to work on, is acknowledging and being aware of that fact, and not allowing yourself to get worked up, to always judge or to rush to the negative conclusion, because that's what you're seeing, and maybe it's not what they see or what they mean by things.
Mhm. Well, and yeah, the judging part of the whole thing, right? I mean, and again, it's the, can you have more compassion for people? Can you at least hope maybe that their intentions are much purer than what you think they are? Right now, again, if it's somebody who just does it over and over and over and over again, I mean, maybe it's time to kind of cut that person out of your
Sure.
life. But yeah, can you be grateful for those opportunities as well, and approach these as opportunities for you to be able to practice patience and practice compassion and practice love. Some of these things that again are important for your spiritual path.
Yeah. Holidays are a great opportunity to do that, because you're stuck in a room, especially if it's over the winter holidays. You can't really get out of way. You're kind of stuck inside the house with all these people that maybe you're petty tyrants,
Mhm.
and so you're forced to deal with these things and to work through them. So use the holidays as a learning and a growing opportunity for yourself
Mhm.
spiritually.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
So
much
that,
more that we could get onto an intention as well, but again,
oh yeah,
hopefully we kind of gave some different ways for people to think about it. I mean, again, it's always good to have an intention, right? So again, instead of going through life doing all of these things mindlessly, it's good to have an intention, to build in an intention, because sometimes again you can be doing more than just washing the dishes if that's your intention, or you can just wash the dishes, right? But if you have an opportunity to do more than just wash the dishes, why not do more than just wash the dishes? Right? I'm just saying.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, this is a foundational, I think, idea when it comes to growing, when it comes to walking this spiritual path.
Mhm. Yeah, and just starting to realize what is your intention behind it. What is your true intention behind it? Because again, I think a lot of times people get focused on the doing. They're curious about and they're excited about doing certain things,
Mhm.
but it's the doing of the thing doesn't matter if the intention is not behind it.
Yeah, and I know, I'm sure in future episodes we'll talk about some of these different practices and some of these things that you can do. And it's great that you can have a room full of crystals, let's say, or you wave around a sprig of sage, but it's the intention behind it that really is what has the impact. It's not the waving around of the sage. It's there's more behind it there that you have to have. So
Yep, exactly.
a reason to tune in for the future episodes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah. I think we kind of talked a little bit about the second intention thing, about just kind of being intentional.
Mhm.
I think, going about and doing something with purpose. And again, I use my daughter as a really good example for these lessons. Again, kids are our greatest teachers. And for me, she, does things, and I ask her, why did you do that? Why did you? So she has been learning cursive. She's in second grade, and so she's been learning how to write her name in cursive. So that's something she's been working on. She's really excited about it, whatever. And so the other day, I happened to be in her room and noticed that on her bed, she had written her name in cursive on the bed, like not like actually on like the side, like the part that you're not supposed to write on. And so I asked her, why did you do that? Why did you write your name on the bed? I don't know. It was her response. And I say, hey, you've got to be thinking about, before you take an action, why are you doing it? Like, you're going to be intentional about this. There's got to be a reason for it. But it's not just her. I mean, we do it all the time to ourselves. We do things without even thinking about why we do it. That's that, again, an example of the mindlessness that I think that a lot of times you go through. And part of this path is kind of waking up from that, to doing things with intention, to do them from our consciousness, as opposed to the subconscious.
Well, and again, even though I know we talked about at the beginning, this is brought to you by the letter I for intention. But what's interesting is the tie-in to attention as well, right? Is that, again, hopefully you'll start becoming more aware and placing attention on what you are doing and set an intention for what you want to accomplish while you're doing whatever you happen to be doing.
You're being intentional about what you're doing.
Yeah. And the more that you do that, right, the more that you do things with an intention and setting your attention on why and the outcome and some of these other things, the richer your life can be. Because again, you can go through life hating washing dishes, or you can see it as not just washing dishes. I like to see it the other way, because
it makes it more fun, less tedious, right?
Like, less tedious. Life is and I think it gives us more of a purpose as well too, right? Because we understand and we can see how the things we are doing fit into the bigger whole of everything. Can you imagine if dishes never got washed?
Paper plates.
What would the world look like? Well, and imagine if...
I'm pretty sure I've seen that movie. It's called Wall-E, and it's by Disney. That's what it would look like if we never washed dishes.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you've not watched that movie, all of you out there, I would suggest you do that. And then you'll know what happens when we don't wash our dishes, and why it's important that you're intentional and have an intent around washing your dishes.
Yes. All right, I think we've honeyed that as much as we can.
Yeah. For more wordplay, join us next episode. And we'll.
But seriously, join us for the next episode, because the fact that you've been listening all the way to the end means you got something out of it. You're enjoying what we're saying. So keep listening. Make sure and share with your friends and family as well, because obviously if you're getting benefit from it, other people that you know and love will also get benefit from it. And that's one way, again, of sharing is caring, of just letting other people know about it as well. So
Awesome. All right. Thanks for joining us, guys. And we will catch you all on the next episode.
all right, see you, everybody.